The Eiffel Tower is a wrought iron lattice tower on the Champ de Mars in Paris, France. It is named after the engineer Gustave Eiffel, whose company designed and built the tower. Locally nicknamed La Dame de Fer, French for Iron Lady, it was constructed from 1887 to 1889 as the centerpiece of the 1889 World's Fair and was initially criticized by some of France's leading artists and intellectuals for its design, but it has become a global cultural icon of France and one of the most recognizable structures in the world. The Eiffel Tower is the most visited monument with an entrance fee in the world. 6.91 million people ascended it in 2015. The tower was made a monument historique in 1964 and named part of UNESCO World Heritage Site Paris, Banks of the Seine, in 1991. The tower is 330 meters, 1,083 feet tall, about the same height as an 81-story building, and the tallest structure in Paris. Its base is square, measuring 125 meters, 410 feet, on each side. During its construction, the Eiffel Tower surpassed the Washington Monument to become the tallest man-made structure in the world, a title it held for 41 years until the Chrysler Building in New York City was finished in 1930. It was the first structure in the world to surpass both the 200-meter and 300-meter mark in height. Due to the addition of a broadcasting aerial at the top of the tower in 1957, it is now taller than the Chrysler Building by 5.2 meters, 17 feet. Excluding transmitters, the Eiffel Tower is the second tallest freestanding structure in France after the Millau Viaduct. The tower has 3 levels for visitors, with restaurants on the first and second levels. The top level's upper platform is 276 meters, 906 feet, above the ground, the highest observation deck accessible to the public in the European Union. Tickets can be purchased to ascend by stairs or lift to the first and second levels. The climb from ground level to the first level is over 300 steps, as is the climb from the first level to the second. Although there is a staircase to the top level, it is usually accessible only by lift. The design of the Eiffel Tower is attributed to Maurice Quechelin and Émile Nouguier, 2 senior engineers working for the company des Établissements Eiffel. It was envisioned after discussion about a suitable centerpiece for the proposed 1889 Exposition Universelle, a World's Fair to celebrate the centennial of the French Revolution. Eiffel openly acknowledged that inspiration for a tower came from the Latting Observatory built in New York City in 1853. In May 1884, working at home, Quechelin made a sketch of their idea, described by him as a great pylon, consisting of 4 lattice girders standing apart at the base and coming together at the top, joined together by metal trusses at regular intervals. Eiffel initially showed little enthusiasm, but he did approve further study, and the 2 engineers then asked Stephen Sauvestre, the head of the company's architectural department, to contribute to the design. Sauvestre added decorative arches to the base of the tower, a glass pavilion to the first level, and other embellishments. The new version gained Eiffel's support. He bought the rights to the patent on the design which Quechelin, Nouguier, and Sauvestre had taken out, and the design was put on display at the Exhibition of Decorative Arts in the autumn of 1884 under the company name. On the 30th of March 1885, Eiffel presented his plans to the Société des Ingénieurs Civils. After discussing the technical problems and emphasizing the practical uses of the tower, he finished his talk by saying the tower would symbolize not only the art of the modern engineer, but also the century of industry and science in which we are living, and for which the way was prepared by the great scientific movement of the 18th century and by the Revolution of 1789, to which this monument will be built as an expression of France's gratitude. Little progress was made until 1886, when Jules Grévy was re-elected as President of France and Édouard Lacroix was appointed as Minister for Trade. A budget for the exposition was passed and, on the 1st of May, Lacroix announced an alteration to the terms of the open competition being held for a centerpiece to the exposition, which effectively made the selection of Eiffel's design a foregone conclusion, as entries had to include a study for a 300 meters, 980 feet, 4-sided metal tower on the Champ de Mars. A 300-meter tower was then considered a Herculean engineering effort. On the 12th of May, a commission was set up to examine Eiffel's scheme and its rivals, which, a month later, decided that all the proposals except Eiffel's were either impractical or lacking in details. After some debate about the exact location of the tower, a contract was signed on the 8th of January 1887. Eiffel signed it acting in his own capacity rather than as the representative of his company, the contract granting him 1.5 million francs toward the construction costs, less than a quarter of the estimated 6.5 million francs. Eiffel was to receive all income from the commercial exploitation of the tower during the exhibition and for the next 20 years. He later established a separate company to manage the tower, putting up half the necessary capital himself. Work on the foundation started on the 28th of January 1887. Those for the east and south legs were straightforward, with each leg resting on 4 2 meters, 6.6 feet concrete slabs, one for each of the principal girders of each leg. The west and north legs, being closer to the River Seine, were more complicated. Each slab needed 2 piles installed by using compressed air caissons 15 meters, 49 feet, long and 6 meters, 20 feet, in diameter driven to a depth of 22 meters, 72 feet, to support the concrete slabs, which were 6 meters, 20 feet, thick. Each of these slabs supported a block of limestone with an inclined top to bear a supporting shoe for the ironwork. Each shoe was anchored to the stonework by a pair of bolts 10 centimeters, 4 in diameter and 7.5 meters, 25 feet, long. The foundations were completed on the 30th of June, and the erection of the ironwork began. The visible work on site was complemented by the enormous amount of exacting preparatory work that took place behind the scenes. The drawing office produced 1,700 general drawings and 3,629 detailed drawings of the 18,038 different parts needed. The task of drawing the components was complicated by the complex angles involved in the design and the degree of precision required. The position of rivet holes was specified to within 1 mm, 0.04 in, and angles worked out to 1 second of arc. The finished components, some already riveted together into sub-assemblies, arrived on horse-drawn carts from a factory in the nearby Parisian suburb of Levallois-Perret and were first bolted together, with the bolts being replaced with rivets as construction progressed. No drilling or shaping was done on site. If any part did not fit, it was sent back to the factory for alteration. In all, 18,038 pieces were joined together using 2.5 million rivets. At first, the legs were constructed as cantilevers, but about halfway to the first level construction was paused to create a substantial timber scaffold. This renewed concerns about the structural integrity of the tower, and sensational headlines such as, "Eiffel Suicide," and "Gustave Eiffel has gone mad. He has been confined in an asylum," appeared in the tabloid press. At this stage, a small creeper crane designed to move up the tower was installed in each leg. They made use of the guides for the lifts which were to be fitted in the 4 legs. The critical stage of joining the legs at the first level was completed by the end of March 1888. Although the metalwork had been prepared with the utmost attention to detail, provision had been made to carry out small adjustments to precisely align the legs. Hydraulic jacks were fitted to the shoes at the base of each leg, capable of exerting a force of 800 tons, and the legs were intentionally constructed at a slightly steeper angle than necessary, being supported by sandboxes on the scaffold. Although construction involved 300 on-site employees, due to Eiffel's safety precautions and the use of movable gangways, guardrails and screens, only one person died. For the 1900 Exposition Universelle, the lifts in the east and west legs were replaced by lifts running as far as the second level constructed by the French firm Fives Lille. These had a compensating mechanism to keep the floor level as the angle of ascent changed at the first level, and were driven by a similar hydraulic mechanism as the Otis lifts, although this was situated at the base of the tower. Hydraulic pressure was provided by pressurized accumulators located near this mechanism. At the same time, the lift in the north pillar was removed and replaced by a staircase to the first level. The layout of both first and second levels was modified, with the space available for visitors on the second level. The original lift in the south pillar was removed 13 years later. On the 19th of October 1901, Alberto Santos Dumont, flying his number 6 airship, won a 100,000 franc prize offered by Henri Deutsch de Lemert for the first person to make a flight from St. Cloud to the Eiffel Tower and back in less than half an hour. Many innovations took place at the Eiffel Tower in the early 20th century. In 1910, Father Theodor Wolff measured radiant energy at the top and bottom of the tower. He found more at the top than expected, incidentally discovering what are known today as cosmic rays. 2 years later, on the 4th of February 1912, Austrian tailor Franz Reichelt died after jumping from the first level of the tower, a height of 57 meters, to demonstrate his parachute design. In 1914, at the outbreak of World War I, a radio transmitter located in the tower jammed German radio communications, seriously hindering their advance on Paris and contributing to the Allied victory at the First Battle of the Marne. From 1925 to 1934, illuminated signs for Citroën adorned three of the tower's sides, making it the tallest advertising space in the world at the time. In April 1935, the tower was used to make experimental low-resolution television transmissions, using a shortwave transmitter of 200 watts power. On the 17th of November, an improved 180-line transmitter was installed. On two separate but related occasions in 1925, the con artist Victor Lustig sold the tower for scrap metal. A year later, in February 1926, pilot Leon Collett was killed trying to fly under the tower. His aircraft became entangled in an aerial belonging to a wireless station. A bust of Gustave Eiffel by Antoine Bourdelle was unveiled at the base of the north leg on the 2nd of May 1929. In 1930, the tower lost the title of the world's tallest structure when the Chrysler Building in New York City was completed. In 1938, the decorative arcade around the first level was removed. Upon the German occupation of Paris in 1940, the lift cables were cut by the French. The tower was closed to the public during the occupation and the lifts were not repaired until 1946. In 1940, German soldiers had to climb the tower to hoist a swastika-centered Reichskriegsflag, but the flag was so large it blew away just a few hours later, and was replaced by a smaller one. When visiting Paris, Hitler chose to stay on the ground. When the Allies were nearing Paris in August 1944, Hitler ordered General Dietrich von Choltitz, the military governor of Paris, to demolish the tower along with the rest of the city. Von Choltitz disobeyed the order. On the 25th of June, before the Germans had been driven out of Paris, the German flag was replaced with a tricolor by two men from the French Naval Museum, who narrowly beat three men led by Lucien Sarnegay, who had lowered the tricolor on the 13th of June 1940 when Paris fell to the Germans. A fire started in the television transmitter on the 3rd of January 1956, damaging the top of the tower. Repairs took a year, and in 1957, the present radio aerial was added to the top. In 1964, the Eiffel Tower was officially declared to be a historical monument by the Minister of Cultural Affairs, André Malraux. A year later, an additional lift system was installed in the north pillar. According to interviews, in 1967, Montreal Mayor Jean Drapeau negotiated a secret agreement with Charles de Gaulle for the tower to be dismantled and temporarily relocated to Montreal to serve as a landmark and tourist attraction during Expo 67. The plan was allegedly vetoed by the company operating the tower out of fear that the French government could refuse permission for the tower to be restored in its original location. The puddle iron, wrought iron, of the Eiffel Tower weighs 7,300 tons, and the addition of lifts, shops and antennae have brought the total weight to approximately 10,100 tons. As a demonstration of the economy of design, if the 7,300 tons of metal in the structure were melted down, it would fill the square base, 125 meters, 410 feet, on each side, to a depth of only 6.25 centimeters, 2.46 in, assuming the density of the metal to be 7.8 tons per cubic meter. Additionally, a cubic box surrounding the tower, 324 meters times 125 meters times 125 meters, would contain 6,200 tons of air, weighing almost as much as the iron itself. Depending on the ambient temperature, the top of the tower may shift away from the sun by up to 18 centimeters, 7 in, due to thermal expansion of the metal on the side facing the sun. When originally built, the first level contained 3 restaurants, 1 French, 1 Russian and 1 Flemish, and an Anglo-American bar. After the exposition closed, the Flemish restaurant was converted to a 250-seat theater. A promenade 2.6 meters, 8 feet 6 in, wide ran around the outside of the first level. At the top, there were laboratories for various experiments, and a small apartment reserved for Gustave Eiffel to entertain guests, which is now open to the public, complete with period decorations and lifelike mannequins of Eiffel and some of his notable guests. In May 2016, an apartment was created on the first level to accommodate 4 competition winners during the UEFA Euro 2016 football tournament in Paris in June. The apartment has a kitchen, two bedrooms, a lounge, and views of Paris landmarks including the Seine, Sacré-Cœur, and the Arc de Triomphe. The arrangement of the lifts has been changed several times during the tower's history. Given the elasticity of the cables and the time taken to align the cars with the landings, each lift, in normal service, takes an average of 8 minutes and 50 seconds to do the round trip, spending an average of 1 minute and 15 seconds at each level. The average journey time between levels is 1 minute. The original hydraulic mechanism is on public display in a small museum at the base of the east and west legs. Because the mechanism requires frequent lubrication and maintenance, public access is often restricted. The rope mechanism of the North Tower can be seen as visitors exit the lift. The tower has been used for making radio transmissions since the beginning of the 20th century. Until the 1950s, sets of aerial wires ran from the cupola to anchors on the Avenue de Suffren and Champ de Mars. These were connected to longwave transmitters in small bunkers. In 1909, a permanent underground radio center was built near the South Pillar, which still exists today. On the 20th of November 1913, the Paris Observatory, using the Eiffel Tower as an aerial, exchanged wireless signals with the United States Naval Observatory, which used an aerial in Arlington, Virginia. The object of the transmissions was to measure the difference in longitude between Paris and Washington, D.C. Today, radio and digital television signals are transmitted from the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was the world's tallest structure when completed in 1889, a distinction it retained until 1929 when the Chrysler Building in New York City was topped out. The tower also lost its standing as the world's tallest tower to the Tokyo Tower in 1958 but retains its status as the tallest freestanding, non-guide, structure in France.